Hey guys, welcome back to Hear Our Voices. Thank you for coming to part 3. I hope you enjoyed the first 2 parts. The medical students will have much more questions and things like that in this part of the episode. So sit back, relax, and enjoy yourself. Also, just get some housekeeping out the way. We go follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. We are most active on Twitter, and we try to give out job postings and things, resources that can help families. So if you're on those platforms, you can see us all the time. If you want to talk to me, you can follow me on my personal page, or you can go on the thing and somebody from my team or myself can answer you back. It doesn't matter who answers you, as long as you get the help you need. But I love to talk to you guys if you like. And thank you for listening. Sit back and relax. So, if you could change, if a person was listening and they're like a public official, and you could change like one thing in the whole system other than empathy, right? Because people say you cannot teach that. It's just something you have to have, right? What would it be? What would be that one thing you would like them to change about the whole system that you were in?
Wow, that's a good question. I mean, it's a lot of things, but mainly the way they do things, like the way the system is in general. You know, like it's a lot of things. It's just the system itself. It's really bad. Like you really have all these people in the shelter system now that are coming out from their country or their place of native and coming to the United States, and they're overcrowding the shelter system, which they should just find them whoever's there already as it is, find a place for them. You know, help them out to get their own place to not overcrowd the shelter. You know, have a limit. You know, if they've been there for years, you know, get them out. Find a place for them to have to say, look, this is mine or this is yours. You can have it. As long as you pay your rent, that's yours. You know, it's hard.
It definitely is. So, guys, do you have any? I know you had questions that you would like to ask her about any, because they're medical students, so they want to have more information to be able to help themselves and help their colleagues in the future to be better humans, to be honest. Because a lot of people who are in the shelter in general, they have had backlash with doctors and things like that. Personally, I never had it because they didn't know I was in the shelter. The key is get an address of somebody you know and get all your important mail, go to that address. And when I did the times I did go to the hospital, they never knew that I lived in a shelter. They always had the address of my friend in Brooklyn. Probably that's not the way to go, but people treat you differently based on where you are and who you are and what background they think you're about sometimes. And I was not about that foolishness. So I just didn't make that be my problem. But Corey or Gabe, if anybody want to ask her the questions pertaining to what you think medical students would like to know more about.
Sure. So first of all, thank you so much, Lourdes, for sharing all of that. I really appreciate your honesty. And I think I speak for Corey and I when I said we learned a lot from that. I think generally something that we would both like to know more about is, what do you think, since the two of us are currently in training to become physicians, what do you wish that healthcare professionals or healthcare students knew or understood about the experience of homelessness broadly, or specific people experiencing homelessness as it relates to their health?
I honestly believe that the status shouldn't matter to help others, because that's another big thing that is going on, because you're not a U.S. citizen or you're not part, quote unquote, part of the United States, that they discriminate. And I think that status shouldn't matter to be taken care of or have, you know, for your health. You know, health is a big issue, whether it's mental health, whether it's any type of abuse, status shouldn't matter.
I think as she said, status shouldn't matter, no matter if you're from a different country or if you're homeless or something like that. I feel like from what I understand, I've never been a doctor or nothing, but it's supposed to be, I think, a Hippocratic oath. I think that's what it's called, and that's something you vow. When I hear that, I think of you're supposed to be there for all people, no matter what color they are, no matter what background they are, no matter if they're homeless, no matter if they're this. Your job is to help and serve the community, no matter where the person's background. You should be going there literally as an open a slate. It should be clean, no matter where they come from, and they should just be helping without judging. I know it's her interview, but since I was homeless and I'm a part of it, I definitely want to put my 2 cents in about that situation. A lot of people feel like people judge them when they go to the medical facilities and hospitals, and I think that shouldn't be done. People shouldn't feel like they're going in for medical help and also getting judged at the same time, because from what I understand, with I could be wrong. They say your mindset could also be like a reason why your health is like, if you're in there, for example, for cancer, and your mindset is not positive. Not saying if you have a negative mindset, you're gonna get worse, but your mood, if you get depressed, certain things can affect the process and not make things go as smoothly as it could have if your mindset was better. So I think if you can help the person be just okay and be fine and know that everything's gonna be all right and I'm here to help you, I think that'd be a great way for the doctors and homeless people in general to be much better. So yeah. Sorry, Corey.
Can I add? Can I add something?
Yes.
I've been through different hospitals, and I've seen people that are actually ill, that something's broken or they're bleeding, and I've also seen people who are addicts, and I've seen that some of the doctors in the hospitals don't show too much care to those people who are addicts, and I don't think it's right either. Like I said earlier, the status shouldn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're from your background, not native background, but it also shouldn't matter if you're a drug addict or if you're an alcoholic or whatever else it is. It shouldn't matter. I believe that these should get taken care of also. I guess that's where my empathy comes in. I see different side of people, and I think that everything should be in one pack. If you're going to be a doctor or in the medical field, you need to show that that you care for everybody else, not only yourself. I'm assuming that's the reason why you want to become a doctor. You know, so I believe that everybody should be treated equally, no matter if your background status or because you're an addict of some sort.
Corey, I know you wanted to step in.
Sure thing. So thanks again, just to echo Gabe for sharing everything so honestly, and fully agree with everything that all of you have said so far. So to kind of like hop onto Gabe's question a little bit, and to kind of pull from what Kadisha asked you before about if you could change one thing about public health officials, public health professionals, and things like that. I know you talked a lot about the empathy, not treating everyone equally because of the stigma associated with addiction and things like that. If there was one thing you could change about the way healthcare professionals operated with respect to homeless populations, is there one thing that you would have in mind? Would it be that empathy? Would there be something else that you would kind of add on to that?
Right now, from the top of my head, no. I think it basically goes back to showing that they care, the empathy. I know even though not a lot of people, that is within, not something that it's learned. You have it, you have it. If you don't, you don't. But I believe that it works hand in hand. You know, I think that there should be more bilingual people, not only Hispanic that speaks English or um, Asian people or Oriental, whatever it is, whatever do they speak. I think they should have a little bit of everything, of every culture to speak, just in case that somebody comes along the line that really can't speak the English language, to have that.
wouldn't it have to be also that a person of those backgrounds would have to be medical savvy? Because, like, example, if I could speak Spanish, but when the doctor's telling me words, if I don't know how to explain it properly to a person, they would have to be able to be, to understand what the doctor's saying, but to also translate it. So it's like we need to get people in those fields who can understand doctor speak, but also give it to a person who's in layman's terms. Because honestly, some things what doctors say now, I'm like, okay, can you speak it? Just dumb it down just a little bit. Like, for example, this is a side story. I took my medical blood work last year, and they gave the regular checkup stuff, blah blah blah. And I thought I was first of all I have anxiety, so let's start with that. So I'm reading everything. I'm like, oh my god, everything is high, and da 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 da. Mind you, I'm just reading the chart. I'm not the doctor didn't tell me nothing yet. They didn't tell me if everything is okay. Nothing like my doctor's actually off leave, so another doctor had to actually pick up her spot to give me the email saying everything is okay. I'm dying of diabetes here. I think mind you, my whole family at this point probably have it, the adults. So I'm honestly very used to it, but it's like, it's happening to me, so I'm very dramatic. If you don't know, I'm also a theater student. I used to be, so there you go. And so if I had a person who was there reading the chart with me, even though I could speak English, it's just somebody to kind of tell you what's going on, making sure you understand all the details. Because to me, all the numbers seem like it was high. The doctor's like, you're perfectly fine. So it's just like, it's a person to kind of comfort you and to tell you the information. And I feel like those my charts and all these things, they need to, before they send out information, they need to tell you positive or negative or good or bad. It shouldn't just be just giving out me numbers. And if you don't know in the medical field, you're not going to understand a word that they're saying. You're going to get yourself anxious, especially a person like me, for no apparent reason. And I feel like doctors need better bed manner. Because when I was younger, I was not afraid of doctors. When I got older, I am, because of a bad incident, and I thought I almost died. But that's a different story too. So I feel like doctors really need to have better bedside manner and just nicer. I don't know what it is. I had a nice doctor. She was so kind. She even gave me a hug. She was so nice. She left. She's my eye doctor. She's amazing. Like, I'll be crying and she's like, it's okay, Khadijah, it's fine. So I feel like if I could prototype her as a doctor for everybody who's a doctor out there, I would definitely do it, because she's amazing. Like, she would take time, and most doctors don't have time, but she makes sure, like, she know I'm an appointment. She makes sure she comes and she talks to me. She sits down, she hold my hand. Probably is that you might think that's too much, but if you really love your job, you love the patients that you're having, and you're gonna make sure they're okay and not setting up their blood pressure for no reason, I feel like you need to be more caring. That's what we're asking for. We're like, when you, like, example, if you go to the doctor for somebody else and you're there, like, okay, they have diabetes, but when it's for you and you're the person in that shoe, it can be very overwhelming. And I feel like people sometimes forget that there's a person they're speaking to, because they do the same thing every day. It doesn't bother them, because it's like, I see blood, I see a person die, and a regular person who's not in that feel like, oh my gosh, I see blood, something must be wrong, let's help. And the doctor's like, okay, put a band-aid on it, you're fine. So I feel like, I don't know if you can learn that skill. I can just tell you that's the skill I think you should have, but just be more caring. I don't know. I'm sorry, I rambled a lot, but yes. So, what's the other questions that you have for Lourdes? I'm kind of taking it over. Sorry, guys, but what other questions do you guys have?
I think one other thing, and no worries, all of your input is very, very interesting and helpful, Keisha. To kind of take it in a slightly different direction, I know we've talked about a little bit about mental health, healthcare in general, and about kind of like the stigma in healthcare associated with addiction and things of that sort. I was wondering if you could talk to us a little bit about any experience with nutrition and food security and things like that, if those are things that you're comfortable talking about. That's something that, at least for medical students, we talk about a lot, as nutrition can affect your health, and as a result it affects the way that people are brought into the hospital and things of that sort. So I was just wondering if you had anything to share with us about nutrition, food, and things like that.
I can speak for experience. With my son, like I said earlier, he has ADHD, and he could be compulsive, impulsive when he chooses to. That depends. It's a trigger. With him, it's a trigger. However, I was told back then in 2015, when he was first diagnosed with ADHD, that it could be certain food that he eats. With him, I had to keep away from like the veg, anything like red juice, like the Hawaiian punch. I have to keep away from that because that has a lot of sugar. That was like a trigger happy thing for him. Candy is another trigger happy thing for him. Um, so depending on the food that I gave him, it would like give give him a super boost of hyperness. So I had to literally like at one point I would buy him food outside, and then I was like, wait, what am I doing? So I had to handpick a certain food that I would give him, and like it did calm him down. I got off like the real concentrated sugar things, so that kind of calmed him down a little bit. But then again, he's also on medication, so that was like another thing. Um, but now it's like now that he's getting older, he's kind of I could give him certain things like red juices, like Hawaiian punch, and it won't give him that much of a high boost of hyperness. So the food is a big factor, and that's one thing I do agree on you guys with you guys. Um, it just has to be less concentrated on the sugar. Even with me, even as I'm a little overweight, and I do skip few meals, so that's another thing for me. You know, I try getting my breakfast in every once when I can, because sometimes I do skip it, and that's not a good thing. But nutrition is a big factor of having the right foods in your system. It's a big factor.
I could honestly say, probably will have this down below. They have a lot of soup kitchens in New York City. They have people who give out food and things like that. But I know the shelters I was in. I'm gonna go through. I'm gonna go through all of them to be honest. The first one I was in, they didn't give any food at all. So, but they did. You did have a kitchen, so you have to buy your own food. So, if you weren't working, most times we'd have food stamps. But if you were undocumented, if there's a family shelter, you will get food stamp for your kids, but not for yourself, which to me is ridiculous, in a way. I'm just That's a different story right there. The second shelter I was in the Bronx. They also didn't give food, but you also had a stove. So most times buying vegetables and buying healthy stuff is more expensive than buying normal food. Um, so a lot of times you do get more things was not as healthy for you, and sometimes even nowadays even regular fruits they spoil. So you have it 1 minute and it's spoiled like bananas. I buy it one day, next day it's gone. I'm a bit confused. So sometimes they don't stay as long as you would like to, like back in the days. I don't know what's going on with these things that they're making nowadays, or growing nowadays. It's just weird. Um, the shelter I was in next, they had food, but only certain times a day. And it was because I worked in Manhattan. My daughter went to school in daycare in Brooklyn, and I lived in the Bronx. I would never come back on time to get food from them, but I'm pretty sure I probably wouldn't have liked it. But I like to like pick and whatever they might have had. They gave out baby food, which was a plus for me because baby food can get kind of pricey. And at the time, my daughter was pretty young. She's a baby, so having the baby food was great. Most shelters I feel like don't give out baby food, to be honest. The last shelter I was in, which was Landing, they gave out microwavable food, which honestly most times is not the healthiest food to have. Nutrition really can affect you a lot, and it was microwavable foods. What do you think is gonna happen in there? Most times I didn't buy food from there. I didn't take. I mean, I buy. Most times I didn't eat food in that because I don't like it. They don't have taste. I'm used to a lot of flavors and not just salt and pepper. I'm Jamaican. We eat a lot of, stuff, spices. Not really spices, like that's what they call, the seasonings, but people. Anyway, so I feel like nutritionally, unless you buy it yourself and you're cooking it yourself, but if you're in a shelter, like I was in the last one for the year, and they don't have a stove, you cannot make your own food. So you can be very nutritionally unbalanced. Thank God I was healthy, nevertheless, overweight but healthy. But it's not good for your joints after a while. But there you go. But I feel like they don't give you a lot of healthy options in shelters. Apparently, some shelters got better. So it also depends on, if you don't know anything about the shelters in New York City, each shelter has different people owning it. Like I was in a camper shelter, different people own the shelter, so it's like private. Like path to send you to these places is kind of privately owned, but it's through DHS. Like it's supposed to be done by the city, getting their funding by the city, all the stuff. But different shelters run differently because different people own the shelter or over the shelter, so you can get different things based on who's in charge of it. If you get a person who's in charge who loves their job, wants to really help people, your shelter will run better, people will get out faster, you'll have more things for families to do and things like that. If you're in a shelter where people don't care as much, things won't get done as fast, people are lazier, just the environment is not as great. So it all depends on where you are located. And yeah, so that's what a lot of things are based on in the shelter system in New York City. I don't know about other states, I'm just saying New York, because that's what we're based at and that's what we have the most information about. So yeah. Hopefully that answered your question, guys.
It definitely did. Thank you so much for that contribution. It's really interesting to hear from you. So definitely answered it. Thank you.
Do you have anything else to ask Lourde? Gabe?
Nothing comes to mind. I think we've really learned a lot from the both of you today. I really appreciate how you've been able to answer these questions so well.
No problem. So Lourde, do you have any last words that you would like to tell people about going to shelter? Before we even get to the ending, where are you now? What is your life like now? What's your aspirations for the future on housing and things like that?
Well, since 2018, I ended up having my own apartment. I ended up doing some lottery thing that I didn't even know it was even possible. I just went into the internet and went through some lottery stuff, which it was weird because I don't even remember from the top of my head me doing it. But right now, I'm in my own apartment. Thank God. Um, have just to let you know, I have 3 kids, but 2 of them are with me. Um, I end up having my now going to be 4-year-old child. Um, she was born in the actual building. Everybody knows her. Everybody loves her. Um, for futurely, I am on the verge of moving out of New York, but I also end up getting Section 8 through this whole process. So I am fortunate to be one of those lucky few people who have Section 8, and my voucher is actually movable. I could go anywhere in the world and I still have my Section 8. Um, just to let everybody know that you are not alone in all this process. There are people out in this world who are willing to work with you and help you, and I am one of those people that is willing to help others and you know let them know that they're not alone, especially in my Spanish speaking community.
That's good to hear. So guys, I'm gonna do some other, stuff. So as you might know, before I used to be the only person on Instagram and all the other social media networks. I'm not the only person anymore working on it. I do have a team that helps me go through it. I'm on Instagram, but not as often as I used to be, but I do get notifications on Instagram. So if you want to talk to me directly all the time, you can put my name in there if you're not sure who you're talking to, or you can go to actually my Instagram and talk to me there and say you're from the podcast. It doesn't really matter, but anybody who's going to be on there, they have no problem helping you or giving you information. We're gonna have a by the time you see this, I think this is actually gonna go out after the panel, to be honest. So guys, sorry about that in the beginning. Um, And we're gonna have a resource packet coming out. We're gonna be updating it and making sure, as you know, if you go to like Canberra and these places, they give you these packets and the resources are not up to date. So we're making sure the stuff we're giving in our resource packet is up to date and be able to help you guys and to really make a difference in your life and not just something you're calling in like numbers are disconnected or they're not working with this anymore and things like that. So we're making sure we have that together. If you want to talk anytime, we're here to talk to you. So don't feel shy. Don't feel any way about it. We're here to tell you more about PATH. I know things are always changing in the system all the time. And the longer we know about the change or we heard about it from the grapevine, we'll definitely tell you about it and give you updates about it because we don't want people to be lost no matter what background you come from. And keep your head up. You're not the only person going through it, as you might know and see and hear. And we're here to help you. And I hope that one day you can speak about your story and it can help somebody else. So thank you guys for being amazing. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for being here. And talk to you next time. Bye. Thank you for listening to Hear Our Voices.